I'm a huge Stone Temple Pilots fan, and the DeLeo brothers were interviewed by Billy Corgan on Billy's podcast recently, and this is a great interview that had a lot of cool stuff, and I learned some stuff I never knew, and it brought up a couple ideas. So, first thing I learned that was really cool, one of my favorite albums, Tiny Music, was recorded on a Mackie console. Now, we know Brendan O'Brien produced it and has most of the stuff he works on. Not only did he produce it, he also mixed it, but he used a Mackie console. Now, if anybody knows the deal with Mackies, they were never really thought of as top of the line. A lot of people always considered them to be kind of harsh sounding, and I didn't even realize this, but some of the tracks on that album I use as reference tracks to this day, or just to get a sense of like what my speakers sound like in the room, to kind of reset myself in any different environment with different headphones, because I know what they sound like so well because I listened to that album a million times. And it's crazy to me that that was recorded and mixed on a Mackie console. I can't even believe that. It's just amazing how good it sounds, and that should show you that it doesn't matter what you've got, how you're recording, what your handicaps are, how most likely whatever you're using probably sounds better than the equivalent of what that Mackie console sounded like back in the day. So that means it's all about the ear and the skill level of the person working with it and how much pain they take to get things to sound good at the source while they're tracking. How much time do you put into, this isn't exactly what I want. Let's tweak the sound. Let's move the mic closer. Let's use a different guitar amp. Let's put it in a different place in the room. Let's use the stairwell. Maybe we like just different. How creative can you be? Which is why I love what we do. It's all about being as creative as you can possibly be, no matter what step you're on, producing, mixing, anything. It's how many different ways can you come up with to solve a problem? Because one of those ways is going to be the way that works the best, but it might not be the first way. You may have to keep trying things till you figure it out. So that's actually my favorite part about making music in general. It's problem solving, and it's problem solving using any creative solution that you can come up with. And no two people would come up with the same solutions or choose to use the same tools or ideas in the same place on the same thing in the same circumstance. It's so cool. That's why I love learning what other people have done. Because like on that album, they used the foyer to record certain things. The drums were in a cedar-lined closet. Pretty interesting stuff. I know, Big Bang Baby drums sound super dead, and a lot of that was recorded on the roof. Like, just really interesting. And I mean, that in particular, because when there's less reflections, things sound deader, like just more dead. And as a result, the Big Bang Baby drums sound pretty dead, and they have a cool vibe to them. And a lot of that comes from recording on the roof. Just really interesting stuff. But something else that I got from that interview, which was a really good interview. And a lot of the comments were like, how nice of Billy to have the DeLeo brothers on to interview him, because Billy was talking a lot about himself. But it's really just because their stories kind of connect a lot. They toured together, they spent a lot of time together, and they were both part of the same era. So it's really interesting how both of their stories kind of interlock and intertwine at a point. And what I learned that I thought was so cool, and it brings up a more important point even than everything I've said so far, is that there's magic when you get a certain group of guys together. And anybody who's ever worked with other people, like musicians, what we do, a lot of it is collaborative, or should be, in my opinion, because we get so much out of working with other people. Now, some parts of the process are not collaborative. Like, a lot of people who mix don't mix with other people mixing at the same time with them. It doesn't usually happen, but some people do. There are some people who actually have somebody who they like co-mix records with, and I find that to be interesting. But more than that, it's like I've played with a lot of different musicians, and with some people, we can say to each other with our instruments things we would never be able to say to each other in conversation. It's almost as if when we're together, the way we play is there's a magic to it that just can't be stated like in words. It's almost like a magic that exists. And the reason this idea came up is because Eric, their drummer, is a guy who plays really he plays the perfect part for the song. He's like one of these drummers that's like a Ringo kind of drummer who's never trying to dazzle you with what he's doing, but he's the perfect drummer for that band. And I didn't know this, but he is the guy who wrote, he wrote the music for one of my favorite STP songs, Trippin'. Tripping out a hole in a paper heart. It's one of my favorite tracks. I can never remember if it's tripping down a hole, tripping on a hole. I think it's tripping on a hole in a paper heart, but maybe it's down. Either way, one of my favorite songs. And when I talked about the reference thing, that's the song I always pull up because I love the way the song sounds. I love the chorus. I love so much about it. And that's like the DeLeo brothers talk about how that's Eric's song. Like Eric wrote that. That's so cool to me. Now, I'm not talking about like Scott wrote a lot of the lyrics to a lot of the stuff, but it's more about that is because Eric was in that band. That song is one of his amazing contributions to that band. One of my favorite songs. And that just shows you it's not about having the most technically proficient, amazing drummer to be able to make stuff that everyone loves or songs that are hits. It's about having the group of guys together that creates the magic. You don't have to be the best. You have to have that some kind of chemistry that makes the thing you guys do work better together. It's not unlike the Chili Peppers, how when they have John in the band, it's a lightning in a bottle thing. Once they had Chad and John and Anthony and Flea, there was something magic there that didn't exist to the same degree with other people in that band. And very similarly with Stone Temple Pilots. And that's why, I mean, it's a shame Scott's not still around because, like, what a talent. But the four of them together was something truly magical. Truly magical. And obviously the fact that they're the two brothers, on bass and guitar, the DeLeos are amazing. Such talented musicians. And there was obviously a chemistry there, which is cool when you can get along with your brother on that level for all those years and spend all that time together. And you're not only, in a band, but you're also a family, which is like being in a band. I mean, that's pretty amazing. You have to be, I would say, really enlightened to be able to do that, because I'm sure they had moments where they were at each other's throat, but you never would know it. They stuck around for all those years together. Like they were never a problem dealing with each other. So cool. Really amazing, honestly. The love that they have for each other is I mean, they've shared things that a lot of family members, I mean, it's pretty amazing what they did, right? So, and I'm saying it almost had to be harder because they were brothers, because there's so much history there, but maybe it was easier. Very cool stuff. But the fact that also Billy mentioned, Jimmy, his drummer, Jimmy Chamberlain, amazing drummer in Smashing Pumpkins. And Billy talked about how Jimmy used to play other drummers like just into the ground, and they would just be like completely disheartened when they'd see how good Jimmy was to be able to like follow, go up before that or follow. He would destroy people's souls because of how good he was. But he loved Eric's playing. He loved how good Eric was at the drums and what he brought to that band. And that says a lot. It says a lot about Jimmy's ability to understand what it takes to be a drummer and to make a song better because of the part you're playing. Some drummers play for themselves and they play for the ability to show somebody something cool, to be able to do a 20-minute drum solo and to be able to do some fast fill. And they put all this focus on the fills at the sake of the other parts coming before it and after it. I've played with many drummers that they're thinking so much about their fills that they're doing a fill every 4 bars, or they'll do their fill and then when they come in, they're they're too fast, or they're not paying more attention to the groove than the fill, and as a result, they lose the groove. When you get a guy like Eric who plays his part that's perfect for the song, some of the fills he does are just so tasty because they never hold the groove back. It's just amazing to me how the right group of guys can create things that are better than anybody by themselves. Any of those 4 guys on their own would not have been able to accomplish what they were able to accomplish together. So take stock, take inventory. Who do you play with that you have a magic and a chemistry with? And don't lose that. Spend some time cultivating and keeping those relationships alive, because you never know when the right time could happen for you, where something happens, but you want the people that you're able to do that with around you. And you don't need the best musicians in the world to be able to have that magic. It's just about the right people. It's about the right people. And this goes to a video I made a long time ago where, it's more important than talent to have the drive and the persistence to want and need to keep going and to outwork everyone else. That is so important. And if you have anybody around you who's like that, and they're less good than somebody else, but you got to wrangle that other person with a lasso all the time, and they're always trying to go do less and hard to get to practice and hard to show up, and they never want, that person will be a nightmare for you. Whereas the one that's, maybe a little less talented, but wants to be there and all the time goes out of their way to work as hard as they can, that's the person you want around you. That's the one that will take you further, because you won't have to spend all the effort getting them to just do the bare minimum. You will instead be able to free up your brain, your time, your mind to get other things done. And you probably have a soldier who will do the same, who wants to get more things done. That's what you want. You don't want the most talented guy who's impossible to get to show up. That's not what you want. So everybody, I think, it's important to take inventory of who we have around us and put the time in, because friendships take time, relationships take time, and if you don't put time in, they go by the wayside. So it's almost like a form of bettering yourself and improving your own life, and getting better is putting in the time to be able to jam, to rehearse, to practice, to keep those relationships alive. It's rare that people meet other people where you have that kind of magic. It's worth holding on to, and it's worth, if somebody in your life, a lot of times the people that have that kind of closeness, something goes wrong and then, you guys fight and you may write the person off forever, or you're waiting for them to apologize, or don't. Sometimes that magic is so powerful when you're playing that you must actually get yourself to forgive them. You have to almost go out of your way to let certain things go so that you preserve that amazing magic. You really do. I mean, there's certain things when people cross certain lines, you may not be able to forgive them. I completely understand. But I would go out of my way, and I have, for certain people who I felt like we had a magic with. So I got to give them a little more leeway. You just do. Because why? Because there's a magic there that's unexplainable. So anyway, I hope you consider what I'm saying, because it took me, I didn't know this when I was younger. I had to get to a certain point, a certain amount of life experience to really get there. So anyway, I hope you guys dig it. Talk to you soon. Evan Jaffe Custom Cut. Leave a comment. Let me hear your stories. I'd love to. You guys got this. Take it easy.